This is the season of amplification. This is a special season for those who grew in their reverence for God while going through the turmoil of the COVID pandemic. You are now in position for a level change. And when I say a level change, it's not a level up, but a level of depth. See, it's an Eurocentric perspective to think the higher you go in life, the closer to God you become. But in ancient African wisdom, it tells us that it is the depth of your knowledge, the depth of your wisdom, the depth of your understanding, and how you allow it to live through you in your actions that gives you the opportunity to get behind the veil where God exists. This is a special season for those who have a healthy fear in God and not in a COVID mutation or a variant that continues to put restraints on our old way of living. Because in the depth of our understanding, we know that change is imminent, and our ability to adapt to change will reflect on how we fulfill God's purpose in our lives. We are still on mission, regardless of the COVID pandemic. This season of amplification is a special season for those who spent God's currency wisely. And that's that extra time we were given to spend in our households, to fortify our relationships with our families. That extra time we had to edify our minds, our bodies, and our spirits so we become more prepared to walk in this new beginning. This is a special season. See, the number 22 is considered a master number because it duplicates and amplifies divine energy. At this moment in time, for the next 365 days, you are getting double the strength, double the creativity, double the protection, double the drive and determination, double the love. This season of amplification, yes, you are made ready for your spiritual breakthrough of 22. Everything is in your reach, but it's still up to you to go get it. Hey, how y'all doing today? Welcome back to another classroom session of Roots and Culture, the World of Akibaland African History class. Welcome back to Roots and Culture, the World of Akibaland African History class. Trying to get settled. Now, today is a special type of day. Not only is the season, is that season of amplification as you was watching, however, today is January 22nd in the 22nd year of 2022. What? So now when you look at the date, they're double digits of 22s, right? And so first, it didn't click until I started writing my notes this morning in reference to my classes, right? So I'm setting up my classes for the day and I write the notes on my book. So like if anybody ever have to go back, and grab my notes and take a look at what I've created, if something ever happens, there's a backtrack. Not only is there video, but there's also written notes. right? And those notes will say African history class. It tells you what we talking about today, and it has today's date. So when I saw 12222, I was like, ooh, let me make it. I definitely stopped everything and meditated and sent the prayer out on that number 22. You know what I'm saying? Woo, woo. That's that today, to ask for that extra energy. Why? Because I know I'm working on my purpose. I'm working on my God given call, and that's what I'm doing. That's what I do. See that? That's what I breathe for. So I sat down and said, okay, we want to tap into this. So tap into it today. If there's a struggle that you're having, it's some not even struggle because we don't even live in the times of struggling. That's over. And that's another thing coming. We're going to talk about that on African Speaks. We might do that tomorrow during church, right? We're going to see. But we're not even in the times where we experience struggle. It's something totally different. And I got that awareness this past week. But we're definitely at the moment of implementation where we can implement our dreams, our visions, our goals, and our desires according to how we see fit or according to what God calls. Now, that 22, the extra amplification of power only comes when you are accomplishing what God has called you to accomplish. And so again, that the number is most powerful is the you are able to accomplish what you're doing at the highest level because you're receiving more and more energy for it. So live your passion, live your call, and access what God has sent. Now, here we are in our African roots. We're not in African spirituality class because it starts out like that, right? But it's one and the same. It's definitely one and the same. So we're gonna, I'll let you know that one, I am, is the two most strongest words in the dictionary. I am. That's the Moses code. Hopefully, you're listening in a Keebaland spirituality class, a Keebaland inspirational Sundays. There, because we said I am was the Moses code, and anything after I am, when you say the words I am, it enters you into the realm of God, the realm of the thought process or imagination, right? Not visualization. That's different. Visualization is different than manifestation. Woo. That is different than that creation mode. Because visualization, you see it already. But when you walk into God, you don't see it. God gives you the revelation of what you're here to create, right? And so I am a Malakio. I am not the expert. I am the seeker, and I seek wisdom, truth, and knowledge. And as I seek it, I share it. This particular class was voluntold. It was community blessed or community charged, I say. And it was because I have the technology and the know-how to actually present it and bring it to another generation or even my generation or the older generation, because I've seen a lot of the older generation a couple of weeks ago was watching. Now, we did not make it last week. We did not make it last week because we were in the process of a transitional ceremony, and it was one of the most powerful ceremonies I've been to. And I always, people may not, it may sound weird or strange, even if I cry and I'm sad, and this thing affected me. It's still affecting me. I'm still singing the songs of the family's request as I go through my days. As we, in terms of the ceremony that we put together to send the transition brother over to the ancestral realm. Right? African spirituality. We talked about that. We're gonna be talking about it more. Not today, but we're gonna be talking about it more. Um, but today, now, what we're gonna be working on, um, we gotta let you know that every time we come up, every time we're here, every time we stream, we are completely focused on the rise of the African, the social media Pan African movement. Now, this particular scenario or this particular our program or our focus or our agenda is the Marcus Garvey numbers. I should have put the Marcus Garvey picture up in here. It's our Marcus Garvey numbers, and what we seek to do is bring Black people all over the world who are focused on Pan Africanism across the world, where we can make sure that we are self-determined. We are self-determined. That's what we want to make sure. We are self-determined. We determine everything about us: food, clothes, and shelter, education, health, you name it, judicial system, you name it. We want to control it all, right? And that's what we're working on. So we ask you to please participate. If you're watching us on Facebook, yes, like, comment, share. That is the way you work these algorithms, and we're going to ask you to continue developing these algorithms. We got some good feedback last week on some adults, and We got something coming to you in February. Haha, we got the community coming in February. Yes, I'm going to say it. The community's coming in February, right? And if you're watching us on YouTube, please click subscribe, hit the notification bell, so that you, anytime that we live stream, you are aware of our programming. Such as today, we're doing the Roots and Culture, a World of Akibaland African History class. And so if you would like to be a part of the class, please see the email below, which is info@worldofakibaland.org, to be open into, how I do it this way? Yeah, I can't do it. Yeah, it's this way. Okay, let's go back. Yeah, there we go. This way. Okay. Yeah, you will be sitting over there when the community comes on next month. Yep, next month. And it's not gonna be for African history class. We don't have African history as class set up just yet, but we do have a Keebaland inspirational Sunday coming for you. So we're gonna try to get them in this experience on a regular basis. That's what we're gonna do. So if you would like to be a part of our community conversation as we give the Discord, please send the email, and I'll definitely get in contact with you. Uh, be aware of our uh, be aware of our all of our programmings throughout the week. Of course, we have a Keebaland Inspirational Sunday at 12. African Speaks on Tuesday, 7 p.m. We have AfroStream, which is the topics for the diaspora, and that's 6:30, 7 o'clock. It's the news from a Pan African perspective. And then African Speaks. That's an intellectual conversation. It's something that helps you think about Black reality. Yes, because we are pulling everybody, Black people together for that rise of the African. We're seeking that liberation experience on all of our programs, and then all of a sudden, also we have at 2 o'clock after this class, we have the African spirituality class, understanding African spirituality. And again, we're getting good response. People giving me my thumbs up. People hit me up on the phone, calling me that know me, sending me text messages like they really like the class. So as you watch, enjoy, hit the thumbs up, share, have your kids watch, discuss it, talk about it amongst yourselves, your wives, meditate on it. Meditate on it. I had my brother call me the other day, and man, he said, "Brother, I've been listening to you, and it just clicked for me." He said it just clicked for me, and that's a beautiful thing when the wisdom of God enters into you and it clicks and everything begins to make sense around you. That's what it's all about. All right. So we also know that. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Please do not forget. I do not want anybody not to. I, I do not want to ever forget to explain that most of our data that we're doing comes from what we call the People's Library, which is a library that of 6 terabytes of African history. It is our version of the encyclopedia. It is also growing up into to the size of 12 terabytes, and I have to get that particular data. But if you would like that information and how to receive that, please hit me up. We're giving it out to individuals. All you have to do is get the hard drive to us. We'll get you the information and give it back to you. Can't beat that. Now, most of our information today does not come from the People's Library. This one I had the YouTube University. This one because we've been studying the beginning of mankind in African history and African empires, right? And that was one thing. And so we talked about the Pangea in the world coming together, the migration of man. If you missed those classes, well, let me. You know what? I promise to post those on a website so that you can go back and take a look at them. Promise. Woo, you know what I'm saying? Fingers will cross. I ain't crossed my heart or nothing, but yeah, I promise. I was thinking about that this morning. And one of the things that we want to always focus on when we're studying African history is why we study African history, right? And so we understand African history, we call it Afrocation. Afrocation has two purposes. Afrocation is the study of African history where it helps you to learn how to operate in an oppressive society. Yes, it gives you an identity because if you take the identity of the oppressive society, no growth. But if you study African history from an African perspective, a Pan African perspective, Afrocentric perspective, you see yourself differently. You see your people differently. You see your culture differently. You grow. as a human being into who God called you to be. And so it gives you it and it shows you how to operate. But then the second part is even better. It shows you how to move, not how, but it gives you that urge to build for yourself, self-determination. A real education in this world for any Pan-African individual is one, how to operate in a oppressive society, and that's colonialism, where you be over at the motherland, you know what I mean, or anywhere in the diaspora, or dealing with the mark of slavery here in the Americas and around the diaspora, right? All right, so because colonialism is in Africa, and the mindset of colonialism is still there, even when they say we want to be free. If there's no process of deconditioning, is really, you can know that, yeah, a lot of deconditioning has not happened. But it has to be a spiritual process that people undergo. Spiritual, mental, physical. It encompasses your whole everything, your diet, how you meditate, move, exercise, all of it. How you interact with each other is based off a relationship, yes. And so you want to make sure that happens. Now, the study of history is the study of self-awareness and self-discovery. That's what this is. If every other race can be aware of who they are in God, why can't we? Why does our history have to start with slavery? Why? Because according to your oppressor, if that's what your oppressor wants, you'll never break free. You'll never seek a dominant state on a global scale, not in your own personal life. And that's one thing that people mislead. Just because you're doing well in your personal life, and this is right, I'm talking as a hypocrite. Just because we're doing well in our personal life does not mean we're doing well as a people. And that's what God will look at. You will go home, or you will walk back into the ancestral realm, and God will say you never accomplished what I sent you to do. Wow, what happens on that day? Well, as we recapping, we want to make sure that we always understand culture and communalism. Oh, it's already half hour, and I'm talking. Well, look, because I got these things to go, and I can talk all day. So we're gonna sit down, and we went over culture, recap, and the attributes of culture. We talked about civilization and communalism, and how Africans were Africa is the birthplace of humanity. How the Nile, woo, was the gift to the birthplace of civilization, which is gave birth to where you can be communal. You no hunger, no, you had plenty of lumber for food, rich soil, animals, you name it, and they shared and they created great empires. Now, last time we were here, we talked about one of the great empires of Kush, right? And you see Kemet, which is where Egypt is. Kush, huge, and they talked. We discussed that the personality of the Nile stretched 8,000 miles, and multiple about 11 countries, 8 to 11 countries on that Nile, and it breaks up at the end where it goes two different directions, right? Nothing but civilization all through there. But the first civilization and the main civilization that existed in Africa was not Egypt. White folks would like you to believe that. That's why they said that, we don't want to teach you that Egypt is in Africa and that everything is in Africa and came out of Africa. Because if they have to teach, if they don't teach you, if they only teach you about Egypt at the corner, never connected to Africa, you will never hear about Kush. And I've never heard about Kush in my life going to school. You heard Egypt, 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 then Egypt, Rome. No, Kush, Kush, Kush. Egypt is, according to the studies of last, according to Rome, Egypt is the migration of individuals from the Kush Empire. But Egypt was not first. They were an extension of the Kush Empire. And so now, with that, what we wanted to do is talk about the queens of Egypt, or not Egypt, excuse me, of Kush, the queens of Nubia, the black women. And this is not in the curriculum in the people's library. This is something I had to add, because as I began to study and it began to touch me, I sat down and said, "Wow, okay, learning about the empire is one thing. Let's talk about the people within it, so we can get to see the heritage." Ooh, where black women inherited the things that they do. Woo! The power that they walk in. Woo! Man. controlling empires. What? When it's supposed to be made for men. Whoa, Kush wasn't like that. No, Kush said that the women had more, just as strong as a role, and they were kings. They sat on thrones. They didn't say kings. They were queens on thrones. Where when the kings passed, they ruled. Right. It wasn't like, oh, you got to pass the throne over to your male son. Up. No, she could if she wanted to, or she could sit and rule. And when her child was ready, then she can give it. Usually, kings had to die for their kids to get it. Queens could say, "This is the gift for you," to their sons or to their daughters. Wow. Yes. Who was worthy? Let's take a look.
Women symbolize a unique aspect of royal life in ancient Kush. Many scholars consider Kush to have advanced a matrilineal-based system, a system that was distinct, serving as one of the differences between Egyptian and Kushite civilization. Today, I wanted to see how queens and royal women were represented in Kushite civilization. The foundation of this video is taken from a journal article that I think gives valuable information concerning women in Kush. In the ancient world, the position of women in Kushite society was considered very intriguing by some non-African civilizations. In the ancient Mediterranean world, the exceptional status of queens in the kingdom of Meroe inspired comment in the works of Greco-Roman writers. These women, and the Kandake in particular, continue to attract the attention of travelers and scholars.
I want to say that the Nkandake is a title. It's a title for woman rulers, the Nkandake. And you automatically knew if they say the Nkandake, that's the woman ruler of Kush, of the empire. Okay, so they even had a term for her. Rather than king or queen, no, she is the Nkandake. I love that. I love that. And then you see how it's not just us saying the Africans were saying it, the Nubians were saying it. No, Rome knew it. They give you the parts of Rome that they want to give you, but they don't give you all of it. Now, when you go and research yourself, you'll find all of it. Now, we're gonna. I gotta say thanks to uh, um, YouTube. Oh man, I forgot the brother's name, but it's okay. But YouTube University blessed us with this video. Let's go.
Down into modern times. The kingdom of Meroe was founded around 500 BC, and it was located in modern-day Sudan. We often refer to the people of Meroe as the Kushites. They were oftentimes the most dominant Nubian group in the Sudan region, and they arguably built the most flourishing Nubian civilization. We learn about royal Kushite women mainly through three categories of study: inscriptions from royal text, depictions of royal women on stelae and temple walls, and finally through tombs with all the good seen in them. Unfortunately, we don't know as much about royal Kushite women as we do Egyptian ones, but some texts give us hints about the various positions they held throughout Kushite society, most of which being associated with the king in some way. We're fortunate enough to see how royal Kushite women dress throughout depictions seen on temple walls. We've seen royals wearing large shawls wrapped around the body, usually below the armpits and around the hips. A second shawl can be seen that's often fringed or decorated with woven stripes. At times, the Kushite woman would drape a sash over their shoulder. These depictions are a really beautiful sight to see because we don't often get to visually witness how ancient African women dressed, especially outside of Egypt.
I need to add. Look at the hips on the sister. Now, I don't know how many movies I've seen from Rome, focusing on Rome and having Egypt, and everybody's skinny. We already know that sisters got curves. They got mountains, valleys, and hills, cakes, pies, and thighs. Loving the true depiction of a black woman. Loving it. And this is what beauty in the world was back then. Let's go.
Clear distinctions that can be made between Egyptian and Kushite royal women's attire is extraordinary. Most scholars agree to the strong matrilineal undercurrent of Kushite civilization, but it still isn't fully understood. The little that we do know, however, through depictions, writings, and tomb findings, paints a pretty descriptive picture. The manifestations of matrilineal ideas have been observed on several occasions. In this system, the person who can bestow an office seems to always be female, normally the sister of the ruler. She can even give her children the right to the throne. Small references to the matrilineal system in Kushite civilization have been seen in the text. When Taharqa cited the female ancestors of his mother, who were Alara's sisters, he emphasized the Napatan system of matrilineal descent through the mother. The possibility to pass on the right to the throne was transferred from Alara to his sisters, who then bequeathed this power to their children. The genealogy of Azpelta furnishes the most important documentation of the matrilineal component in the succession. The legitimacy of Azpelta's selection was based on his descent from 7 successive generations of royal sisters. Each of these 7 women might have been a decisive factor in the succession of kings between Alara and Azpelta. Royal women were held in high regard in Kushite society. I can actually think of 2 examples that occurred in Kushite society that is rarely observed anywhere else outside of Africa. The first is the tombs of royal women being buried in the same area as Kushite rulers at El Kuru and Nuri. This is worthy of note because, with a few exceptions, Egyptian royal women of the New Kingdom were not buried alongside the rulers in the Valley of Kings. The fact that Kushite women shared a burial ground with rulers was a unique Kushite phenomenon and testament to the matrilineal ideals advanced in that society. El Kuru and Nuri were reserved for the exclusive use of kings and royal women, mothers, sisters, and wives of rulers. Other male members of the royal family were not given burial there. In the hereafter, as in life, Kushite royal women were not separated from the sovereign. The second rare event is when King Payanki sent his so-called royal women to accept the surrender of King Namlot. Ironically, King Namlot sent his wife to negotiate the surrender. This event was very unique, not just for African history, but world history. For royal women to represent the demands of a Kushite king in such a way is clearly indicative of the power that was bestowed upon them, and also how they were intrinsically tied to Kushite political life. Kushite royal women
Interjection. Now you see how this matriarchal society existed and women had just as much opportunity and power as brothers. You find this almost nowhere else on the globe when it comes to woman leadership. Kush was the first. Of course, with them being the first empire and the first civilization and the extreme based off communalism, why wouldn't you think that they would be favoring those who deserve? Right now we have a thing where we had to, I know black women in general had to deal with the battle of being seen, heard, in all religious environments. She was not, but in Kush, a royal black woman, yeah, that's your right and your privilege. Ain't that something? And then they said they sent the women to negotiate the deals of the men, of the king. What? Y'all, if y'all looked at 300, when we're, this is Sparta, dude got kicked down the well. When he was showed up, it was him, and you can't usually touch the messenger anyway, right? You can't touch the messenger. That's straight up war if you do something to the messenger. Because it's only just a conversation. It's not an act of war. The act of war is whether or not you hurt someone that comes in peace before dialogue. But the women went as a show the honor of this is how we hold how esteemed they are. This is how royal they are. They can discuss global affairs. What? Global affairs. African women, in terms of the power of who they were in our history, are in our history. This is where it, after a while, it became innate that yes, in this struggle, in this time of during slavery, that if it wasn't for the black woman, we wouldn't have a community. And now that we have, and this would be a dialogue for the community, and now that we have so much available to us, yeah, you see the demise of the family because you see the black woman not only going for self, meaning that she even ignores she now begins to ignore the needs of her own children, where it's not a sacrificial life. I'm not sacrificing my life for you. I need to get out. I need to have my fun. I need to, what? When you have black women in your history, in your bloodline, in your lineage, discussing worldly affairs, you want to discuss where the next party at. We need to get back to who we are in God. Let us continue.
Women also played a significant role in legitimizing a ruler. The Queen Mother was crucial in her son's claim to the throne. She was also associated with Isis. Cauchite queens assumed positions that in Egypt were reserved only for the king, positions such as Lord of the Ritual. These women not only assisted in religious activity, but they were full participants in the ceremony. The story of Horus and Isis played a unique spiritual role in Cauchite society. It must be emphasized that the same myth does not play a comparable role in Egyptian royal ideology. The Caushites did not simply adopt many concepts of rulership that they encountered in Egypt, as often presumed. Rather, the Caushites purposefully took up individual aspects and adapted them to accommodate their own ideas of rulership and to interpret them sacramentally. The connection between the Isis-Horus myth and the king's mother is the closest point of contact between goddesses and queenship. The real world is projected into the divine sphere and vice versa. Isis as mother and decisive factor for Horus's legitimacy is equated with the king's mother, who acts as mother and also plays an important role at the coronation of her son. As we can see,
I don't know if you know the story of Osiris and Isis and the Mayat and Horus. Look it up. But when we get into Egypt, we definitely that's gonna be the first video I play, and then it will give you a clearer understanding of what is. But it is a fictional myth. It is just like the fictional myth of any other immaculate conception story. It's called sacred myths that help explain the unexplainable. And that's what this is. And so that's where they get the story where people say that the birth of Jesus was copied off of the story of Horus and Osiris and Isis. My mind going blank. Look at that. I'm getting old. But we want to make sure that we connect those two. But before we get into it, there's another story that I want you to. So now you understand the magnitude that African women had in the kingdom of Kush, or the empire of Kush. Now I said, wow, I want to take a look. I want to take a look at a particular queen.
Cauchite mothers, sisters, and wives symbolize so much for the social, political, and religious systems of Meroitic society. Some of these women were even documented as actually participating in battle, whether it be the pacification of territory conquered by Cauchite royal men, or facing foreign threats on the battlefield like Queen Amanirenas did. It's really no surprise that the Mediterranean world was so intrigued by the status of these royal Cauchite women.
Queen Amanirenas. Now he
The scar-eyed queen.
Oh, was I forgot to turn myself on.
In 332 BC, Roman Emperor Alexander the Great reached Kemet, ancient Egypt, then headed south of Egypt, planning to conquer the kingdoms in the region of Nubia, or Kush. However, the Romans' armies are not aware of this formidable African woman. She was a warrior queen who commanded her own soldiers in battle, something which many of them might never have seen before. While such a thing may have been commonplace in other kingdoms, but to the Romans, it was something new. Her bravery and composure in her conflict with the Romans is legendary, as she protected her people by halting potential Roman ambition in the region. She just wasn't having it, and was apparently ready for anything that came her way. In the war that lasted 5 years, from 27 BCE to 22 BCE, she got scar in one of her eye in the battle. But this did not stop her by any means. In 24 BCE, when Alexander attempted to conquer her lands, she arranged her armies strategically. She launched an attack on the Roman forces. She defeated and destroyed the Roman forces at Syene and Philai of today's Aswan.
I believe the
Here we go. Now, we talk about the matriarchal foundation that Kush existed on, and so of course, being a part of this vibrant life of civilization. Now, understand that when Kush went to war with Egypt, it wasn't for the domination of anything. It was to realign the Mayat. The Mayat is a sacred word of being able to describe order and harmony with the universe and God. So we're not coming to conquer you because we want to conquer you and take what you have. No. You have lost sight with your influence with individuals outside of Egypt. You have lost your influence. You have lost your focus on who God called you to be. You're out of sync with God. You're out of harmony. There is no order, no harmony. There's no balance in life. And so they would conquer Egypt just to set them straight, and then they would resort back to Kush. In this scenario, they couldn't just give it back, because Rome was hitting at the door, and Queen Amanirenas said, "Yeah, I'm not having this. You know, when we talk about 300 kings and queens in Kush, 300, you know, and I don't know how many generations that is. We talk about, and I think they said that like 18 of them was for, or in Egypt, 18 of them was from Kush, and I don't even, numerous amount of queen rulers. And so that if there was war, not only is she's spearheading the armed forces, Queen Amanirenas said, "I'm going to battle with mine." And wait, what you see she did with the head of the other king. Let's look.
Attack will come from Africa itself.
She didn't stop there. She even drove them from Elephantine Island all the way to northern Egypt. Many historians described her as brave, and blind in one eye. She took everything that belonged to the Roman forces, including several statues of Emperor Augustus. She looped off a statue of Augustus and placed at the bottom steps of temple in Meroe as a sign of defiance or disrespect. She captured and controlled a bunch of Romans' forces and returned to Kush with prisoners.
I want to add something here that European individuals are not gonna will not put, because I seen this in a different video. And in a different video, when they said when she buried the head of the statue of the Emperor of Rome under her throne, it was spiritually symbolic. It wasn't necessarily to be disrespectful. You can take it as disrespect. But African people are spiritual people, and everything has a purpose. And that had a spiritual connotation, that you will always be beneath the throne that I sit on. It's a spiritual thing that she did for herself, she did for her people, as well as the psyche of the emperor. Ain't that something? This is where I buried the head of your statue. Ain't that something? Now you want some? Come get some. With one eye. We always say that there's one thing that you do not tend with, and that's an upset mother. And as a ruler, she has a motherly spirit that connects to all under her. In African spirituality, we study that African female warriors was just as fierce as the African male warriors. And I don't know, I'll sit down, and I had this in my notes that I wanted to share. Please make sure you go see Queen Amina on Netflix. That's showing now. Again, black woman leadership in an African experience was and also African worship ceremonies was something that was common in the beginning of civilization. Not until men fall into their egos with women, and we had more influence of European thinking, did they say women should not sit in these seats. Africans, we don't believe that. Let's keep watching.
She is Queen Amanirenas. Meroitic inscriptions gave her the title of Kore, as well as Kantake, suggesting that she was a ruling queen. Kantake, which means great woman, was used as a royal title or dynastic name for the queens of Cushites. She then sent message to Augustus Caesar. One of the Cushite envoys gallantly presented the Romans a beautiful bundle of golden arrows, and said, "This gift is from the Kantake. If you want peace, this is a symbol of her warmth and friendship. If you want war, keep the arrows because you are going to need them. The Romans left the territory and Africans did not have to pay Rome taxes. Now from these stories, it's clear that the Cushites beat the Romans. Because of the aggressive message brought to the Romans. That was the most epic response to the most powerful military on earth at the time. Her leadership, guidance, determination and grit are second to none when it comes to African queens. Later, The Romans reported that the Cauchite army was led by a Cauchite who was a very masculine sort of woman, and blind in one eye. We can understand this strange description when we see how the artists represented the queens. They were massive, powerful women, covered with jewels, elaborate fringed, and tasseled robes. They often appear carrying weapons in one hand, preparing to kill bunches of small enemy figures, which they hold in the other.
She was a straight sister. Straight sister. Mess with my family or my people if you want. Straight sister. Then they said they didn't. Once she conquered them, they did not have to pay Rome taxes. Where you get off? I'm a country within myself paying you what? Not only did they want the taxes, again, they wanted the resources. Rome was looking for wealth because Rome was struggling over there in their Stone Age. They didn't have it. They didn't have the communal society. They didn't have the vast amount of resources. So they needed to take some things and have people. This is what you're going to give us. And so she, in her dynasty, her era, she was able to hold them off and hold them back. Of course, once there was another king, King Pius. We'll talk about the men next week. After a while, Cush just got tired of fighting off Rome on behalf of the Egyptians. Wow. We fought on your behalf just to keep the borders clear, because if they conquer you, then they're coming for us. After so many centuries, there was a king who chose not to fight. That was a demise of a continent that only functioned from a pure African experience. Rome's influence. Now, there's been a lot of times I have a friend who talks about war, but I said you need to understand the African lifestyle before the influence of European invasion on the continent of Africa. The mindset was different, the cause was different, the purpose was different, everything was different, because we were a communal people with culture, and it was in nothing but art, science, mathematics, culture, and intellect. Let's say that. Culture and ingenuity. Let's say that. Culture and wisdom. Let's say that. Now, it's clear that we were able to influence the entire world, because we did. We gave the world everything, being the first civilization, period. First civilization, period. And we gave the world everything. Now, when we did that, of course, they want to erase that because it takes their image of themselves under ours. No one likes that. No one. Who wants to be, what human wants to be considered second? Now, if you look at it differently, you are an extension of who we are, because we were the birth of all humanity. So when you see us, you see fractions of who you are part of. You are an extension of a whole piece. What's wrong with that? Nothing, because we don't see ourselves as separate, and that's why Africans were able to share everything. We created everything, and everything is of God. Come to African spirituality class and see how God connects to all things and how they were able to visually see God in all things and in everything. Let's get the last of this.
In 1910, a team of archaeologists from Liverpool University discovered the bronze statue's head of Augustus under the throne of Queen Amanirenas. It's now in British Museum. It's clear that it appears to have been lopped off and placed on the bottom steps of the temple. This also shows that how she humiliated the Roman Empire led by Augustus Caesar. Even though the kingdom no longer exists, there are remnants of the civilization, and those, along with the contemporaneous stories, give us a good idea of what a brave queens of Meroe were. With descendant of Caushites existing today, it's no wonder that Ethiopia never to be colonized by Europeans. The Scar-Eyed Queen.
Ethiopia never being controlled by Europeans. And you'll see Ethiopia further down, and we'll get into Ethiopia and how they rode on Lions, ain't that something? They said even in Nubia, they walked amongst the big cats, the big cats. Everything was there. Everything was at one. They were one with nature and society. Because if we eat them, the cats are eating. If the cats are eating, why they hunting us? No need to. You're pets. Really. Fierce pets. And we'll talk about what lions meant in African spirituality during African spirituality class. Give me about 10 minutes to go and we'll have it set up and ready for you. And we'll see you then. Hopefully, you've learned something about Queen Amanirenas and Africa's ability not to separate people according to their gender. Wow. Leadership doesn't have a gender. I always tell people when we even in the middle of us having, which sucks, 85% single house homes. According to Kush, yeah, leadership doesn't have a gender. Integrity doesn't have a gender. Uh, Responsibility doesn't have a gender. Trustworthiness doesn't have a gender. Working hard doesn't have a gender. Those are attributes and skills and or characteristics that you can teach. So when a king wasn't available, sometimes if you didn't have a uh, uh, a male child, your daughter had to take throne or could take throne. The mother or the sister of the king could say, "I'm passing the throne to my kids." If you don't have any kids or your kids are knuckleheads, right? Leadership can be forged inside a being, regardless of whether the man is there or he's not. We want him there. Yes, we want to show up. But look at what happens when he don't. She still has strong sons. She still has strong daughters. She still has strong community. That is the gift of a black woman. That is the power of a black woman. That is where you guys get it from. Wow. Straight from God. Ain't that something? It's beautiful. Now all we have to do now in this world, have them kings show up. Huh, I'm showing up. Follow the footsteps. Let's go. Enjoy yourself. See you African spirituality class. Uh, and with that I say, one love, and let the African in you rise.